I'm learning through my journey that this is who I am about. This is what I am. Grief is the one thing I hold dearly, and it's part of me. It will forever be a part of me. It's my story. I feel like it's very ironic for me to exist in a world where I would say a statement like, I used to be a mother. And society tells me you're still a mother, but reality tells me she's gone. And it's tough. It's tough existing as I used to be mother. My name is Stephanie Chantal Acheng, but I preferably go by Mama Ayla. Reason being, this little girl here. My beautiful princess Ayla Milan Nation, forever 8 years old. I work with photos, I work with videos, I work with memories inside my heart every single day of my life. I have experienced the most beautiful, pure form of love, and that is motherhood. I don't think I've existed enough to have experienced pure love like the one I experienced with my daughter. And for this to be taken away from me in such short notice is something that will continue to be my agony in my life right now and forever. Here's my story, and well, I might try my best not to cry because I'm a crybaby anyway. So, I gave birth to my daughter when I was still a teenager. I was pregnant at 19 and I gave birth to her when I was 20. And at that time, you know, nobody wants to be, okay, I wouldn't say nobody, but a high percentage of us women fear being moms at a very tender age because we lose our identities when we become mothers. Let's be real. So one thing about me through my motherhood from day one, I took that role and I went with it, skyrocketing all the way. Because, you know, I felt like I was chosen to be a mom, right? I got pregnant, gave birth to her, and then I can't recall any given moment where a doctor told me, something is very wrong with your child. The only thing that I was told is, your daughter is not meeting her milestones, go visit this doctor, go visit that doctor, she'll overgrow it, she'll, you know. And I feel the need to speak about this because I feel like our medical system has really failed me and many other moms out here, because to the thing that took my daughter away was something that I would have been told from pregnancy, especially the fact that I was very, very loyal to the hospital visits. I felt like the system really let me down in that part. And I want to speak about the things that I went through along the way. They were very traumatic to me, and I still wonder till this day how traumatic it was for her. Because my daughter's condition is known as ligase 4 syndrome. It's a rare disease that at some point when we went to India, I'll get to that part, These doctors told me if she is put in the books, her name will be the 40th patient in the whole world. And it took for us to get to India to know this reality. My daughter was diagnosed in my country when she was 6 years old, and it was a misdiagnosis, or rather I should say underdiagnosis, because we were told that she has something called aplastic anemia, and it's also a rare disease. It's almost similar to that one, that's why it was underdiagnosed. I walked through the journey of ins and outs of hospital as if it was supposed to be my reality. That was actually not supposed to, but that was my reality. And I till this day, I will blame the medical system, because there were moments we went to hospital. I went banging on doors asking doctors, I need to know, tell me, because it was getting so exhausting for my child. I wasn't even thinking about myself. I was thinking about her as an adult, just going to hospital, getting medication, getting treatment is such a heavy thing to go through. And to just see your child go through all that. She lived her life consistently getting transfusions. She lived her life getting things like, I didn't even know platelets was something that could be administered to until I had my baby. It was so horrific. It was so traumatic in a way that even during the times the doctors used to tell me, she's going to be fine. And I lived life on eggshells, literally. I walked through this journey hoping that the rare disease will be something that will heal, because at no given point did I think that this thing would take away my child. Why? Because I'm a hopeful mom. I've gone through the worst in this life that I looked at my daughter and I said, okay, last time we were in hospital for 2 weeks straight. She came out of it and she's gonna be good. There are moments where I felt like I was just being shunned from hospital. At one point, I had to literally carry her out of one hospital into another, simply because that hospital was not going to give her blood. She needed red blood cells. The hospital just said, we are going to give you a different opinion. If you're not going to take it, then leave. And that's part of my life. That was my motherhood journey. My beautiful princess was quite a fighter, in a way that I feel like part of me was in her, in terms of having the spirit to fight on. She gave me so much strength, emotionally, physically, in ways I never thought I did have. Because along my motherhood journey, I lost friends, I lost family, and I also lost myself. And actually, somehow, it's so weird. I don't even blame them. I mean, who wants to be a part of someone who cannot show up? Who wants to have someone who, whenever you're making plans, she can show up? Who wants to have someone who's always having problems? Who wants to have a friend or someone who constantly, when you pick up the phone, she tells you, oh, I'm in hospital with my child? Boring, right? Right. So I went through a couple of losses, and somehow I told myself, you know what? That's them and this is us. By us, I mean me and my baby. My support system was very small at the time. I wouldn't say I had a big support system. I had a very small support system, and it matters a lot. It mattered a lot to me at the time, because at this trying times when I had to take my daughter to hospital, that was when I knew who is with or who is without me. Other moms out here are physically carrying their babies. I am out here carrying memories. I'm carrying moments. I'm carrying thoughts. I'm carrying the what ifs. I'm right now wondering, my daughter would have been 30 years old. I turned 30, my daughter would be 10. I turned 31, my daughter would be 11. Like, we used to share the last digit, and it was so exciting whenever her birthday is approaching. It's so weird how I never thought death would come to me in this way. Because after we went through all the ups and downs in hospital with my baby, her dad, and at no given moment, the doctors, when we went to abroad in India, we had we were so hopeful, because it felt like this was the one. This has to work. There's no way anything could go wrong. I think maybe because we looked at the statistics and we were like, this is the one. Because I remember asking the doctor, have you dealt with ligase 4? And he told me the experiences the success stories that he has made, and I was super hopeful. I think in that room, I was 300% or more hopeful. He was hopeful as well, because he created a bond with my daughter, something I never experienced in this country. In my country, a doctor would just be ready to remove an injection and take a jab on my baby. But over there was so much love, there was so much gentleness, there was so much care that made me feel like if I had the ability, I would take all the doctors in India and bring them in this country. I say that my daughter rested, but I know she rested knowing that she was loved, genuinely. She was loved with so much attention and care that if I compare to what she went through in my country and what she went through in India, I think she had a very peaceful rest. When we arrived in India, it felt like hope is on the ground I'm stepping on. Like, I remember thinking, I think if my daughter takes a whiff of the soil, something in her will heal at least 1 or 2%. I even remember walking inside that hospital and I just said, these doctors have some healing properties once they touch her, you know. There's a group of Indians who have this thing where if they touch a certain god of theirs, something happens in their life. So I had the same thought. Anyway, that's like a metaphor, but I literally had those type of thoughts. I cannot say that my daughter lived an ugly life. There were parts in her life where I remember how my friends, some of the few friends who stayed, were really encouraging me while we were in India. They would call me, they would check up on me, they want me to tell them how India looks like and things like that. And at one point, I even told my friends, I wish I could tell you how India looks like, but I can't. Because the India that I'm in are just 4 walls and a window. I walked through small parts of that country with her. I took her to a zoo called Kankaria Zoo, I think, and one park known as Science City. Those were moments where right now, as I think about it, I felt like I will beat myself like and be so proud to have done that, because the doctors had already prepared me and told me we're going to be staying in hospital for a while. And I was ready for that. And I said, you know what, before I take my daughter in that room, she deserves some form of joy, a very unique joy that we never experienced together. And that's what we did. For the first time in our lives, we saw tigers. We saw a white tiger and we saw the normal tigers. We saw the beautiful elephants of India. We saw a bear. I think I will never come to see a tiger ever again. And that was an experience for me that I still treasure and I'll continue to treasure. The fearful moments in that room were watching her take in the medicine. It was fearful, but then it was hopeful. I don't know what word to use to mix those two together, but I would see the number of tablets she would swallow. I would see the number of drips, the bags that were above her. They had to give her a catheter, and that was her source of life, I would say. Because through that, she was getting in her medication, she was getting in her blood, she was getting in her platelets. And for some weird reason, I would look at it and say, and tell Ayla, I would say, look at this, Mama, this is going to help you. You're going to be strong. She went through chemo. Her first cycle was quite an amazing and weird experience, both to us and to the doctors. I remember even the doctor asking me, you people in Kenya must be very strong. First cycle of chemo, this is a child, and no reactions at all. And I said, I have no idea. You are the one who knows why this is happening. So you tell me. Maybe my daughter is going to overcome it. And that's the first thing I said. This chemo, with the transplant that her dad was giving her, the bone marrow, I was very hopeful. The doctors were like, okay, let's give it time. Let's see what's going to happen and things like that. And I remember looking at her and saying, you're going to heal, Ayla. That was the first cycle. And a week after, the doctor comes in and says, nothing is happening. And when I asked the doctor, what do you mean nothing is happening? He said, yeah, we gave her the chemo, we gave her the bone marrow transplant, but there's no changes. Her bone marrow is still not picking up, for a lack of a better word. And I sat him down and I remember I asked him, before we admitted Ayla, you told me she'll have to go through chemo and then she'll have to get her transplant. So what are you telling me now? And he said, you know, when it comes to science, anything is possible. And he was very clear with me. He told me so many things. I think by now, if you sit me down properly, without the emotions and all, I will explain to you things that I'd make you believe that I must be studying medicine or something. Because I understood him word for word, and I didn't even argue. So he suggested, let's do a second round. And the good thing is that they had taken her dad's bone marrow, and he split them into two. I'm thinking maybe this is not the first time this had happened to someone else. So he put a backup plan. So when that happened, the dad's bone marrow was ready. And at that point, I didn't give up. I just told myself, you know, okay, well, that has happened, but yeah, we're gonna do this again and again and again and again and again. waking up every day, every 6 in the morning, preparing my child to go nowhere but to sit on the hospital bed, was a type of experience where you almost lose your senses. Because at some point, I got something that I never knew existed. I got sick myself. I got something that they called caregiver fatigue. I never knew I would get sick from looking after my child. Like, how does that happen? I understand moms get tired, but we get tired and we keep moving. We get tired and we push. We get tired and we make sure our babies get what they deserve. But for my own body to fail me, I got such a huge emotional disappointment in myself, because I was there telling myself, Mama Ayla, if you're not going to be strong enough, your baby is not going to be strong for herself. And that's exactly what I did. Because the doctor took me away from the room, had someone else taking care of my baby. And he said I have to be away from her for at least 5 days. Somehow, I think they say you have to wire your brain for you to function the way you expect to. And that's exactly what I did. Day 3, I somehow felt well, and I insisted the doctor and I told him I have to be in that room to see every single thing that my daughter is being put through. The second cycle of chemo was a horror for me, because my girl was so beautiful. To see that beauty wipe off simply because she's fighting to stay alive. It was like a horror movie for me, I think. I still tell myself my life is a horror movie, I think, and a mixture of horror and drama. I looked at her every day. Her beauty was fading. And you might judge me for saying this, but she did not look like my baby. Her hair fell off. Her skin tone darkened. She became darker than me. She was such a light baby. She had glitter in her eyes. That glitter fell off. Her eyes were more engulfed outside. Like, she didn't look anything like the baby I had when I walked into that hospital. At some point, she also got... half her body became numb. And it's so weird how, despite all that, I just told myself, Mama Ayla, it's temporary. It's not going to be forever. You're just here for a few months. Your baby will be fine. And the moment I felt crushed, like my whole emotional system was drained in 1 second, is when the doctor came in and said, this second cycle has also declined. And what's more worse is that he told me that she got something that is called graft versus host disease. It sometimes happens to patients who get transplant. And it's a very expensive thing to treat, because now we had to stop the whole process of her getting her transplant and her getting her chemo and everything. We had to treat that first for us to continue. Luckily, she healed. We had to get the medicine all the way from USA. It's so weird how we exist, but we exist in ways where we think we can easily just get a fruit, water, food here and there and live healthy. But the road gets deep. It's deep. to have a doctor tell me that they don't have this medicine in their facility and it's all the way in US, I was like, okay, book me the flight, let me go get it. But it didn't work that way. But I was grateful at the time that it was able to we were able to acquire that medicine in such a short time. And she healed in just less than a few days. Then we proceeded with the third transplant. The third transplant, I think at some point I argued with my daughter's soul. She was still there, but now they had to sedate her because they saw that this time she cannot stay awake while she's going through that treatment. And I remember stepping outside and arguing with God. And I just told God, what you're doing to my child and the things she's gone through, it's unfair. So you either come down now, be the permanent medicine in her body. Because if you don't, I'm going to ask these doctors to take parts of me and give her. I don't mind dying. I was bargaining with this guy. Never in my life have I ever had a moment where I almost cursed him. I said, God, just do it now. Because they had to move my daughter from the room she was in and took her to pediatric ICU. And in that moment I told him, yo, I'm just from talking to you about what you need to do. What is all this? I remember walking into that pediatric ICU, seeing all the pipes in her mouth, all the pipes in her chest, wires were in each finger of her hands. She looked like a human radio at that point because she had wires all over her. There was a screen showing us how she's breathing, how her pulse is moving, everything. And I wondered, can we just switch bodies? Because she was such a tiny little girl. She weighed something between 13 kgs and 15. What do you mean all those wires are on her? And I was told to go rest. And I'm like, how do I rest when my child is being covered with all these things? How do I rest when I'm expecting her to wake up and tell me, Mommy, I feel better? How do I rest when she's in a position where she can't utter a word? I think the only thing I can say I rested was when my mother came for a few days, and the night before it happened, we had our moment where we just had to go and have a breather. We took ourselves outside for like the whole afternoon, and I still wouldn't say we were okay. The whole time we were sightseeing and everything, and we were walking with her, and I was literally just telling her, what do you think? What do you think is going to happen when she wakes up? We're just talking about her the whole time because we never thought at any given moment death would be knocking on our door. I wish death was an actual person who would come in and say, hey, it's tomorrow. Hey, it's a certain day. But not like that. Not in that way where it's one day she's here, the next day she's not. When that day my mother had to travel back to our country, I remember just telling her, her telling me she's going to be okay, she's going to wake up. When she wakes up, call me. Why you did not wake up? I don't know. Because I remember when the head nurse came and told me, Mama Ayla, you need to move away from this place, because I was literally outside. And I was like, why are you moving away? Why should I move away? Why are you moving me away? Oh, you know, they have to resuscitate. I'm like, resuscitate who and why? What for? And then she said, I can't tell you anymore. And then they had to forcefully move me out of the room. And I talked to God still again. And I said, God, this is your chance. This is your chance to prove to me that you exist. This is your chance to prove to me that for once you've heard my prayer. This is the chance that I will give my everything to you, but please don't take away my child, because I'm hearing resuscitation. Well, somewhere in between the process, I remember just being woken up, and these doctors were looking at me, asking me, how are you feeling? Are you okay? And then I asked them what happened, and then they told me, you know, something has happened, and then you collapsed, and that's when it dawned on me, oh, I fainted because of the shock of the news. I felt like when a soldier goes to war and they lose every single person they went with, the battle gone, the journey gone, my identity as Mama Ayla with Ayla gone, you know. And I remember them preparing me to go see her before they removed everything on her on that bed, and they asked me, are you ready? And I said, I'll never be ready, but let's go. Yeah, let's do it. I have never seen my child look so disturbingly peaceful in her sleep like that moment, because I was disturbed over the fact that she's here, but she's not here. I remember holding her body, asking her, are you really gone? Are you asleep? You need to wake up. Grief is such an ugly thing to experience in life, especially when it's your child. It's something that you move with. It's something that people who know your experience will always tag you for that. Because I've experienced it. People have looked at me in ways like I'm a disease. People have looked at me like I'm a curse or something. Like, oh, she lost her child, you know? And it's fine, because society will always have their way of viewing things. I'm learning through my journey that this is who I am about. This is what I am. Grief is the one thing I hold dearly, and it's part of me. It will forever be a part of me. It's my story. It's what makes me what I am. Because what I am right now is a grief advocate. I am a child loss advocate. I talk about my journey. I grieve out loud because some other mom is out here wondering how to take a step after the loss of their child or children, after the loss of their pregnancy, after the loss of their first all their children. And I just feel like, as an African woman, we are really shunned away from grieving out loud, and it's not something that we need to embrace. We need to embrace grieving out loud because it's our identity. In a local street, people will walk around and say, "Who ndole mama aliyefiliwa na mtoto?" In English, to say, "This is the lady who lost her child," and that's the reality. But that shouldn't be looked upon like it's a curse. We should embrace people who have lost children, because where else are they going to lean on to? Who else are they going to cry to? In times where you feel like things are so heavy, there has to be someone who will be there to hold you and say, you can cry and it's fine. Do you want to talk about your baby? Do you want to say something about it? Someone like me, I wasn't given that chance to have someone just say, come and cry with me the whole day. Because I've had moments where I've cried a whole day. I've lost my weight unwillingly, especially the first few months after grief. I lost a large sum of weight because of the stress, the agony, the pain. Nobody was there to hold me. I was in that house just wailing every day because I felt the need to do that since nobody was giving me their shoulder. If you know someone who is going through child loss, please do not block them from experiencing the pain that they want to express. Do not make them feel like they can have the feeling replaced by having another child. Do not give them options of what they need to do in order to block away the grief, because the grief is that one stone that I will forever walk with in my trouser or in my dress. It's not going to be a feeling that it's not there. It's going to be there. It's just that it's going to be slightly lighter to carry. It will forever exist in my life because she was here. On the physical aspect, she was here. In my heart, she'll forever be here. So there's no way you are going to expect me to stop talking about my child. She was who I became. She gave me a whole identity. Twice, actually. She made me Mama Ayla, and now she's made me an angel mom. And the experience so far is something that I'm still proud of. And I'm also proud of myself for grieving out loud, because at one point, I wouldn't be here. I'm not gonna get into finer details, but for those who know what I mean. Somehow, I'm turning my pain into purpose because it's needed. And that's just basically how my mind and heart feels like. So, the podcast is here for you, for me, for them, and anyone else that you know will need this. There are moments where we will cry, me and my sister Sandy, we will cry on screen, we will laugh on screen, we will tell jokes, dark jokes, but this is how grief looks like. Grief will look like sunshine tomorrow, and the next day it will be thunder, and there's no straight line on how to grieve. We will move with how it takes us on a daily basis, and basically we are here for you and for me as well. Your pain is my pain, and my pain is your pain. You need a hug?